The table was set for 8. I was the only one sitting at it. The server had come by 3 times already. Each time I told her I was still waiting. Each time she nodded and walked away with that look people get when they feel sorry for you, but don't want to say anything. The bread basket had gone cold. The ice in my water glass had melted down to nothing. Somewhere behind me, a table of guys my age were laughing about something, clinking glasses, having a good time. I kept my eyes on the door. 7:22 p.m., nobody. My name is Wade Holloway, 54 years old, senior materials engineer at Holleran Industrial. That night was supposed to be my promotion dinner. I want to give you some background before I get into what happened, because none of it makes sense without it. I joined Holleran 7 years ago after spending most of my career bouncing between mid-sized construction material firms. Civil engineering degree. No family money, no connections. My dad passed when I was 22 and I finished school on loans and part-time work. I learned early that the only thing I could actually count on was doing the job right. Not faster than everyone else, not flashier, just right. At Holleran, I spent the first 3 years developing a polymer formula for structural building panels, the kind of material that could replace standard concrete in certain applications, lighter, more durable, under variable weather loads. It was slow work, a lot of failed batches, a lot of late nights in the lab running stability tests nobody asked me to run, but by year 4, the formula was solid. I had the data to prove it. The problem was that around the same time I was finishing that work, Spence Durrell showed up. Spence was 36. His father, Earl Durrell, had been on Holleran's board of directors for 11 years and was one of the company's founding investors. When Earl decided his son needed a title and a career, Holleran was the obvious landing spot. Spence came in as a project development lead, a role that had never existed before and seemed to have been created specifically for him. I will give Spence this. The man could work a room. He had that quality where he made every person he talked to feel like the most important person in the building. Management loved him. He gave presentations with big graphics and bigger promises, and people walked out of those meetings fired up even though nothing had actually been decided. While I was in the lab at 3 p.m. running batch tests, Spence was having lunch with the executive team. My direct boss, Bart Owens, started shifting, not all at once. It was gradual. Meeting invites would arrive 20 minutes after sessions had already started. Budget requests I submitted would sit for weeks with no response. One time I filed a full testing report through the proper channel and it simply disappeared. I asked Bart about it. He said he would look into it. He never did. The one person I trusted through all of this was Ray Dunbar. We had worked together for 6 years, lunched together most days. He knew my work better than anyone at that company. When I told him about the missing reports and the late invites, he said the same thing every time. Keep your head down, Wade. Do the work. The right people will notice. I believed him. That was my first mistake. There was also a federal contract on the horizon that everyone knew about, the Hargrove Project. 12 million structural panels for a series of government maintenance facilities across 3 states. The kind of contract that could define a company's direction for the next decade. My formula was built for exactly that application. I had submitted the specs and testing data months earlier. What I did not know yet was what had happened to those submissions after they left my desk. When my promotion to lead project engineer came through 3 weeks before that dinner, nobody was more surprised than me, and nobody was less happy about it than Spence. He announced the very next day that he would be moving to a strategic advisory role. His supporters in management started organizing a send-off party immediately. On the same night as my promotion dinner, Bart organized the reservation. Steakhouse downtown. Good place. Not fancy, but solid. The whole team wants to be there, Wade, he told me. This is long overdue. Ray shook my hand and said he would show up early to help set things up. So there I was at 7:22 p.m. Bread gone cold, ice melted. Server coming back for a 4th time. Are you still waiting for your party, sir? Just a few more minutes, I said. I had turned my ringer off during a morning meeting and forgotten to turn it back on. I only realized that later. At the time I just thought it was quiet. I opened my phone to check for texts. Nothing from Bart, nothing from Ray, nothing from anyone. I had a notification from a social media app I barely used. I almost ignored it. I tapped it anyway. The photo loaded slow. My whole department crowded around a high-top table at Sullivan's, the sports bar 2 miles across town where we used to go after project wins. Bart in the back with a beer raised. Ray with his arm around Spence, grinning. Cody, Sean, Paige, all of them, everyone I had worked alongside for years. The caption said, "Congrats on the big move, Spence." The timestamp read 6:48 p.m. They had been there for over an hour before my dinner was even supposed to start. Not one text, not one call. I put my phone face down on the table and sat there for a minute. The guys behind me laughed again about something. The server disappeared into the kitchen. I picked my phone back up. 67 missed calls, all from Renee Doss, our HR director. All between 4:30 and 7 p.m., I called Renee back from the parking lot. Rain had started coming down light but steady. I stood under the restaurant awning and watched my breath in the cold air while the line connected. She picked up before the second ring. "Wade, where have you been? We have been trying to reach you for hours. Phone was on silent. What is going on?" The Hargrove contract, the Federal Materials Review came back tonight. Spence's polymer formula is failing structural integrity tests across the board. Load variance, weather cycling, everything. The federal team wants final corrected specs by 9 a.m. tomorrow, or the contract is pulled. We are talking about $12 million, Wade. The CEO is already at the office. Legal is here. We need you now. I stood there for a second. Spence's polymer formula, that is what had been going into the presentation materials for the past year. Not mine. I had submitted my full stability testing data in March, April, and May through the proper channels. 3 separate submissions. All of it had quietly disappeared while Spence's approach got pushed forward as the company's primary direction. "I will be there in 20 minutes, I said. I left cash on the table inside for the drinks I had barely touched and drove across town in the rain without turning the radio on. The Holleran parking garage was nearly full at 8 p.m., which almost never happens. I recognized the CEO's car near the elevator. 2 vehicles I did not recognize that turned out to belong to outside legal counsel. This was serious in a way that went beyond one bad test result. The conference room was bright and loud when I walked in. 3 screens running failure reports from the federal lab. Structural degradation under standard variable weather loads, the exact conditions my formula had been specifically engineered to handle. Bart was already there, standing near the back wall with his arms crossed. He did a visible double take when I walked through the door. "Wade, I thought you were at your dinner." "I was," I said. Alone, he opened his mouth and closed it again. The CEO waved me over before Bart could say anything else. The CEO, a man named Roy Clement, who had been with Holleran for 19 years, looked like he had aged a decade since that morning. He pointed at the screens. "Tell me you can fix this." "Pull up the shared drive first," I said. "Project folder, long-term stability subfolder." March through May submissions. Glenn Foss from IT pulled it up on the main display. The folder was empty, not misfilled, not moved, empty. "That is not possible," I said. Bart cleared his throat from the back of the room. "Files get misplaced when they are not properly communicated to the team." I looked at him. He looked at the floor. I set my bag on the conference table and pulled out my USB drive. Every file I had ever submitted, backed up locally with original timestamps intact. 2 years of work. I plugged it in and pulled up the full testing dataset on the main screen. "This is what I submitted in March," I said, in April, and May. "My formula handles load variance up to the federal threshold with a 23% safety margin. Spence's rapid development approach skips the molecular bonding stabilization phase, which is exactly why it is failing under variable weather conditions." I walked them through the data for the next hour and 40 minutes. By the end of it, the room was quiet in a different way than it had been when I walked in. Roy leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "Can we use your specs for the 9 a.m. presentation?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I will have the corrected materials ready by 6 a.m. "You just saved this company tonight," Roy said. I nodded and started transferring files. The room began clearing out around 10:30. People grabbing laptops, heading out in small groups. I stayed at the table longer than I needed to, organizing the data transfer and double-checking the corrected spec sheets. The real reason I stayed was something I had noticed earlier in the meeting. During the final 20 minutes, when it became clear that my data was solid and the path forward was decided, Ray had slipped something into a desk drawer at the back of the room. It was a small move, casual, the kind of thing you do when you do not want anyone to notice. But I noticed. When the last person walked out and the door clicked shut behind them, I crossed the room to that drawer and opened it. Inside was a manila folder. On the tab, written in Bart's handwriting, Hargrove Final Specs, Spence Durrell, Lead Engineer. I opened it. My reports, my testing data, my methodology section, my conclusions, my signature blocks, all of it. Spence's name on the cover page where mine should have been. My name removed from every page. This was not a filing error. This was not a miscommunication. Someone had gone through my original submissions, stripped my name, replaced it with Spence's, and filed it as his work. The only question was how many people had known. I photographed every page. Then I put the folder back exactly as I had found it, closed the drawer, picked up my bag, and walked out into the rain. I drove home without the radio, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table until 2 a.m. finishing the corrected spec sheets for the morning presentation. Then I went to bed. I did not sleep much, not because I was upset. I was past upset. I was thinking clearly, maybe more clearly than I had in years, about exactly what I was going to do next and in what order. Some things you have to let sit overnight before you move on them. This was one of those things. The federal presentation went perfectly. I was at the office by 6 a.m. The corrected spec sheets were ready. When the government engineers arrived at 9, I walked them through the full testing methodology, the load variance data, the weather cycling results. They asked good questions. I had good answers. By 11:30, Roy got the call confirming the Hargrove contract was still on, $12 million locked in. Roy came out of his office and shook my hand in the hallway. I do not know how we almost missed this, he said. I kept my face neutral. Neither do I. There was a champagne toast in the conference room at noon. Bart raised his glass and said something about teamwork and perseverance. Everyone drank. I held my glass and put it back down untouched. Spence was at the far end of the table, fingers drumming against his portfolio, jaw set. He had been quiet all morning. He came over after most people had filtered out. Good work on the numbers, he said. We should talk soon about how to integrate some of my development approach into your process going forward. Hard to integrate an approach that fails load-bearing tests, I said. He smiled like I had made a joke. Then he walked away. Over the next 2 weeks, I said nothing to anyone about the folder I had found. I showed up, did my job, ran the technical briefings for the federal contract rollout. I was polite to Bart, I was professional with Spence. I answered every email same day, and after hours, I was building a file. Every email where my reports had been submitted and then gone unanswered. Server access logs showing who had been logged into the shared drive the day my long-term stability folder was emptied. The photographed pages of the altered folder with Spence's name, meeting invites that had arrived late or not at all, budget requests with no response. 2 years of it, documented and organized. Cody Marsh was a junior engineer, 31 years old, 3 years at Holleran. I had worked with him occasionally on batch testing. He was quiet, precise, the kind of guy who double-checked his own work without being asked. I had noticed him in the Sullivan's photo the night of my dinner. He was standing at the edge of the group, not really part of it, holding a beer he did not appear to be drinking. He came to my office on a Thursday afternoon, knocked on the open door frame, and asked if he had a minute. Bart has been running meetings after hours, Cody said. In the small conference room on the 3rd floor, he calls it a realignment group. He has been telling people that your verification approach is going to kill the company's ability to compete, that if every project has to go through your process, it will slow everything down. He is trying to build enough internal pressure to go to Roy and argue for limiting your authority. Who is in these meetings, I asked. Cody gave me 4 names. Bart, Spence, and 2 senior project managers who had been aligned with Spence since he arrived. What do you think about what Bart is saying? I asked him. Cody was quiet for a second. I think if we had slowed down 18 months ago, we would not have almost lost a $12 million contract last week. I told him to keep attending if he was invited. Keep his head down, he had already done more than enough. 3 weeks after the federal presentation, I requested a private meeting with Marlene Ashford. Marlene had been on Holleran's board for 11 years. She was in her early 60s, a former CFO at a regional infrastructure firm, and she had no family or financial connection to Earl Durrell's side of the company. Earl had been on the board longer than Marlene, but she had more credibility with the institutional investors who held the larger share blocks. When Earl pushed things through the board, Marlene was usually the one asking the uncomfortable questions. I spent 50 minutes with her going through everything. The deleted files, the altered folder, the server logs, the realignment meetings. I did not editorialize. I just laid out the timeline and the documentation and let her read through it. When she finished, she closed the folder and looked at me across the table. How long do you think this has been going on? She asked, based on the server logs. The deletions started about 14 months ago, I said. Around 4 months after Spence joined the company. She was quiet for a moment. I want you to be prepared for some pushback. Earl has relationships on this board that go back a long time. I understand, I said. That is why I brought it to you first. She looked at me for a second, then nodded. I will be in touch. Bart called me into his office 2 days later. He looked like he had not slept well. The board wants to meet with you directly, he said. Do you know what this is about? Yes, I said. He waited for me to say more. I did not. Wade, whatever you think happened with the files and the project credits, there are always 2 sides to these things. I would hate to see a good working relationship damaged over a misunderstanding. So would I said. Is there anything else? He had nothing else. The board meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. That weekend, I drove out to a reservoir about 40 miles from the city where I used to fish when I had more time for it. Sat in the truck for a while looking at the water. Did not fish, just sat there. I had spent 7 years at Holloran doing things the right way, testing everything twice, filing everything properly, building something that actually worked. And for most of that time, the reward for doing it right was being excluded from the meetings where decisions got made, having my work rerouted under someone else's name, and sitting alone at a table for 8 on what was supposed to be one of the better nights of my career. I was not angry anymore. Anger had burned off somewhere around 2 a.m. the night I sat at my kitchen table going through those server logs. What I had now was patience, and a folder that was very, very organized. Monday came with clear skies. I got to the office early, set up my materials in the boardroom before anyone else arrived, and poured myself a coffee from the side table. When the board members filed in, I was already seated and ready to go. Marlene opened the meeting. She gave a brief overview of the documentation she had reviewed and asked me to walk the board through the timeline. I did not editorialize. I did not raise my voice. I laid out 14 months of events in chronological order, with supporting documentation at each step. Server access logs, the altered folder with timestamps, the photographed report pages with Spence's name where mine should have been. The email chain showing 3 separate submissions that had never been acknowledged. Cody's account of the after-hours realignment meetings. Earl Durrell sat at the far end of the table. He had been on this board for 11 years. He was used to being the person other people worked around. For the first 10 minutes, he looked mildly impatient, like a man waiting for a meeting to end so he could get back to something more important. By the 20-minute mark, he had stopped looking at me entirely. Spence sat 2 seats down from his father. He had come in looking relaxed. That did not last. When I got to the section on the altered folder, I put the photographed pages on the screen side by side, my original cover page on the left, the altered version with Spence's name on the right. Same formatting, same section headers, same data, different name. The room was quiet. Bart started to say something about communication breakdowns and how files sometimes get misfiled in fast-moving project environments. Marlene looked at him and he stopped talking. Roy asked me directly, "What are you proposing?" I slid a folder across the table to Marlene. Inside was a 2-part recommendation. First, a full audit of every project Spence had been credited on during his 18 months at Holloran. Second, a restructured verification process for all future project submissions with mandatory dual confirmation of receipt and an independent review layer that reported directly to the board rather than through department management. The audit was the real move, because once that audit opened, every decision Earl had made to fast-track his son's projects would be on the table, and Earl knew it. I watched him understand that in real time, the board asked me to step outside while they deliberated. I sat on a bench in the hallway for 38 minutes. My phone buzzed twice. Bart. I let it go to voicemail. Marlene opened the door and waved me back in. "The board has voted to accept both recommendations," she said. "The audit begins next week. We are also creating a new position, Director of Project Verification, with direct board oversight. We would like to offer that position to you, effective immediately." Roy looked like he was holding something uncomfortable behind his eyes. Earl had nothing on his face at all. "I accept," I said. By end of day, Spence and Bart had been escorted from the building. 2 senior project managers connected to the realignment group were placed on administrative leave pending the audit results. Earl Durrell submitted his resignation from the board 4 days later. The official reason given was personal matters. Everyone knew what it actually was. I handled Ray separately. I called him into my office the morning after the board meeting. He sat down across from me and did not say anything for a moment. "You're not being terminated," I said. He let out a breath. "But you're going back to senior engineer level, no management track. And you're going to write a formal account of what you knew and when you knew it and what you did. It goes into your personnel file, permanently." He stared at me. "That follows me to every job I apply for." "Yes," I said. "That is correct." He nodded slowly. He signed it the next morning without arguing. I will give him that much. 6 months later, I was standing at the ribbon cutting for Holloran's first commercial production facility. My formula running at full scale. The Hargrove federal contract fully operational and a state infrastructure deal worth $34 million signed the month before. A contract we had been developing quietly in the background for the past year, one that my testing data had made possible. Cody was leading a group of new hires on a floor walkthrough. He caught my eye across the room and gave a small nod. I thought about the steakhouse, the empty table, the cold bread, the server asking me for the 4th time if I was still waiting. That night, I went back to the same restaurant, asked for the same table, ordered a steak, and ate the whole thing. When the check came, I left a tip that was probably more than it needed to be, not to make a point. Just because I was in a good mood and the server had been attentive, and sometimes that is reason enough. I heard later that Spence had tried to launch a materials consulting business on his own. It folded in under 4 months. Bart applied to 3 companies I know of and was turned down by all of them. The thing about burning your professional reputation over someone else's ambition is that the damage does not stay contained, it follows you. Some consequences just take a little time to catch up. If any part of this sounds familiar, you already know what I'm talking about. You have sat in that chair, done the work nobody saw, watched someone else take credit for it while the people around you looked the other way, and you wondered whether keeping your head down and doing things right was ever actually going to matter. It does, but you have to be the one who makes it matter. Document everything. Back up your own work. Find the one person in the room who cares more about what is true than about who is comfortable. And when your moment comes, do not swing wild. Be organized, be patient. Let the paperwork do the talking. That is not a feel-good ending. That is just how it works. If this one hit close to home, hit like and subscribe. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time someone took credit for your work. I read them.